Hello, everybody, and welcome to Becoming Invincible podcast. I am your host, Talia, and I am so excited to have you here. This podcast is to reframe your mindset, challenge those limiting beliefs that you may have when you're navigating all the situations in your life. And I'm here to give you tools to help you navigate them in such a healthy way and to harness your personal power that we tend to lose along the way. So settle up, get ready, grab a coffee, and get ready for some juice in each episode as I throw you what life has thrown me and we can navigate this shit together. Hey guys, I hope you're having a good day. My gosh, it has been a crazy day today, but that's okay because there's always method to the madness. It's just always crazy pants, I tell you. So today's episode, I really wanted to talk on my mindset, emotions, and actions, and how life was when I was first becoming a single parent. Because once people know my story and can't comprehend how I'm normal, right? So everyone's like, oh, it's so weird, it's so normal, considering you've just not had an easy time. And I thought it would actually be a good episode because of how life is, and also how the fact that the world is so different now. And I thought it would be a really good episode to really go, haven't always been this way, because it's also easy for people to assume and go, oh, but it's easy for you because you are a mindset person. You're very positive. It can be easy for me, but also it's been like a really big journey. It's not been easy. It's been a very hard going time. So the more that I can really help people through a hard time would fill my soul up, because I know how hard it is, and I choose to still be soft in a world that wants to constantly make you hard. And that is really hard to maintain. It's really hard to do. But once you're consistent with it, over time it becomes effortless. So for me to have these positive mindset rituals that I always go on about in my episodes and things like that, that is very effortless for me. It's very second nature to me now. And so I want it to be second nature for everyone, because it can be second nature for you if you just keep with it consistency. I believe that everyone can live this way. Everyone can have the same mindset as what I have. And it doesn't have to be hard all the time, right? Like, it doesn't have to be constant. You got to take time out your day. The amount of times everyone thinks with mindset, I got to take like a day off to do, or I've got to go to a retreat or something. No, you don't. It's literally by doing the simple things. And I think it's easier when you're working one-on-one with someone, because it's personalized to you and your life. And it's always about starting in the areas that, or just starting in a place where you can just do something smaller and smaller, and then you can compound the habits that way. I feel like we just got to get out of our head that you've got to do a ritual all the time. I think if you work with someone, it's just a lot easier because it's tailored to you, it's personalized, it's little things that you can add into your day, and you compound over time, you compound in your life. It becomes a part of your life, right? The whole point I really want everyone to take away with mindset and like how we can be in a positive mind is that doing self-care things for ourselves, it is a lifestyle. It's not about, oh my God, I got to do this for like X amount of months and then I'll be fine. It's not. It's literally creating a new lifestyle for you. It's not a part-time job. It's not something that only some people can do it. It's not, so I've got to do this whole self-development thing, right? I think everyone really doesn't understand that it's about helping you live your life, and it's about changing the lifestyle you have into a more positive one, however that looks. And I just think when you work with people, it just is a little bit easier, to be honest. You're tailoring it to your life, because when I speak on here very generically, it's really hard sometimes, because I feel that when people speak generically on a podcast episode, I'm like, wow, I needed to hear that. But I can't always implement things. That's what I really struggled with, where I couldn't always implement things of what they were saying because it wasn't tailored to my life personally. And I couldn't upkeep things, or, it felt really hard. I felt a lot of pressure from myself that I would put on me when it's really a lifestyle change. It's about doing one little thing at a time over time. Okay. Because the more you work on that, it's like a muscle, the more that you will build and you will be able to just live a more sustainable life, really, And so I really thought that my story with how everything came to be was the best one to do because everyone's like, how are you normal? So here is the story, and I'm going to go real into it's not so much what happened is what I'm going to go into. I'm going to go into like, yeah, but what was your mindset like? How were your emotions? What were you doing? What was life like where you were living? Like what it was like. So I'm pretty much going to take you into my shoes a bit with it. Okay. This is how I became really passionate about mindset. I've always been very passionate in the mindset positive space, but not like how I am today. How this really escalated for me to really want to be online and help. So when things hit the fan. So he left completely just off grid. And I didn't know at the time when the first hit, I really didn't realize like, oh, there was someone else and things like that. Really like the rug was pulled under me again. So previously to that, not too long from so this was like 2022, 2019, I had the rug pulled under me because my dad had passed away. So it felt like another thing happening again. People that don't know. So when my dad passed away, I then broke up with my 6-year relationship. We had a house and we were going to get married. So we lost a lot of money through planning the wedding. We had already had all the stuff booked in that. We had a house that we had to settle. So fast forward 22, because that's the story I'm talking about, not like that story, but it's just a little bit of context for people who are new here, or just to jog everyone's memory if people don't know. So fast forward 22, becoming a single parent, I felt like the rug was pulled under me. Why and how was because there was no warning, and I had gone to my friend's for the whole day, and she lives very far away at this point. So I came back at like 5 p.m. and I walked into the house and there was none of his stuff there. And I was like, okay, like he's gone. It's very different this time. And for context, like he was always coming and going. And so this time I knew that it was completely done. And he had written me an email blaming mental health, but it was a lot of other things too. So the moment that I found out that he actually had left, I felt relief, to be honest. I was like, this is it. Like he's gone, because I don't know, not everyone has experienced it, but those that have, where you've experienced a relationship that was like, even like when people have experienced an on again, off again relationship, right? It's just constant push and pull all the time. When are the fuck are you going to get off this roller coaster is how you feel all the time. And I didn't ever feel safe. I felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time. And now domestic violence, I did do an episode on this, but I didn't really promote it much because I don't know, I think it was just my own shit getting in the way, to be honest. But domestic violence is not just physical, it's also mentally. And so I experienced the mental side of that. And that is a very hard road to come back from. And it does show up in my life today mentally with like different parts of my life. It gets better though. So I don't want anyone to think like, oh shit, it's been a rough road. It's always going to be a rough road. It does ease off and it gets better. And some things then become something that you don't need to worry about, or they don't affect you as much. Okay. It's been a journey where things will then come up. If a friend or someone will say something, I then go, oh my gosh. And one of the things that was always so congruent was actually my overthinking. And it still affects me today. I'm very honest about that. And it's something that it's a hard journey to come over from. That's why I really talk about constantly living in your head. And I'm very a big promoter of like getting out of your head and into your body, because it's easy to live in your head. And for someone who lives in the head, everyone was like, okay, we'll just think our way out of a situation. And I really will say that you can never think your way out of a situation. That is probably the worst thing that you could ever do, because when someone is overthinking so much, you actually need to get into your body, because that snaps you out and gets you into the present moment. When you're constantly trying to solve things in your head all the time, you're living in it, and that is your biggest detriment. Easier said than done to get out of it, but I will help you in this episode on how you can do that, like little things that can take you out. The reason why I had so much trauma as such in my mind was like I have lived in my mind for a lot of my life, but also it was really enhanced with this period of time. Luckily, it was only for 2 years. It wasn't a long time. And it was very on and off. So very push and pull. Everything was good. Everything was bad. And it was just like constant a yo-yo. And no one could ever sustain like a relationship that's so up and down, push and pull all the time. It's finally stopped. And then because there was so much, like it's a very abnormal situation. Okay. So my body didn't feel calm. I was still in fight and flight mode, like what's going to happen next? Finally, there's no more push and pulling, but I don't know what's next for me. And so I started, it's sort of like your nervous system is like in a little bit of a panic. You start sort of shaking, like fretting as such. You have this uneasy feeling. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what to do. I'm not really sure. I was relieved. I didn't feel body relieved. I felt mentally like I was like, okay, cool. Like this is an answer. It's gone, it's ended, but I don't know what's for me. Like, what is going to happen from here? Like, I'm truly alone. And obviously, I have my mums and friends and things like that, but you just truly feel alone. Just like there's no one else in the house anymore, just me and the girls. And so I was like, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock. I got them dinner on the way, thank goodness. And they were babies at this point, you know? Well, it's time to do the normal rituals. They didn't really know any different because they're babies. Because he was very coming and going. They knew he was always just someone that would walk in and out all the time, and which I do feel like has impacted a little bit on my eldest with stability. She struggles a little bit with stability. Now, the reason why she would even struggle if she was so young is because of my energy. Because a lot of people do ask, how does she even remember? Now, with trauma, and I know everyone doesn't like that word, it's a demonized word, it's horrible. It's not. We all experience it, we all have it. We've just got to really be open about it, to be honest. It's kind of like when periods was a thing where like, oh my God, don't talk about that. And everyone now is like very open with period, like the word period as well. So it's really the same thing. Trauma, everyone is affected by life so differently. Trauma isn't thought, it's felt. Okay. So no matter if you can't have recollection of what's happened, you have like a feeling. Okay. Because when you have a feeling and you feel that intensely and you get snapped out of it, like don't stop feeling that. That feeling will live inside your body, because something that frightens you as a child is very different to when something frightens you as an adult. And I think that's something that people forget about when they're parenting as well. It's like, oh, don't be afraid. Like, your child's afraid of that. What the heck? And it's like, well, they are only 3, or like they are only little. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kids can get scared of things, and that's okay, right? We're their protectors. And so we just need to really remind ourselves of that when you're a child, things seem more scary than what they actually are, okay? Because they don't have their adult brain. Now, with this whole situation is trauma is felt, it's not thought about. So she went off my emotions and my feelings at this time. Okay. So I do feel like she has a little bit of impact with like fear and like stability, because I was so distraught at that time. She obviously fed off my energy. I did the whole normal routine. At the start, it was really hard. There was a lot of things I had to look into. Things were coming out of the woodwork, like people were approaching me and people were knocking on the door. It was like a very long situation, but people came looking for him and it was like a whole thing. And so that continued, right? So the home that I once saw, okay, didn't feel safe again, you know, and it felt really, I don't know what's going to happen. I was getting worried that people were going to come to the house and it was going to be quite abusive as such. I have 2 babies. It was very frightening. I don't really know what's next for me. The stuff I'm finding out like is so bizarre, you know, and partly in that as well, I felt a lot of shame and guilt because some things that were coming to me sort of wasn't surprising. I always had like a little bit of a feeling that things weren't completely as they were. And I think it was a lot of just those emotions of like, holy crap. And then having to put things in place. So then I would be protected with the girls, and I didn't want anything to affect us as a family. And that was the scary part, because the person that I once thought I knew, I didn't know anything about really, because everything that he could have portrayed was really nothing. And that is a scary part, because I've been with this person for 2 years and I actually really have no idea who they are. So especially with children involved, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You have to deal with child support and things like that. And that's scary in itself, because you're not really sure if your rights are and things like that. It's a lot. This situation is very not normal though. So it would probably be different in a normal circumstance. Long story short, he's a criminal. Yeah, that's how that all turned out. A lot of people like even judge me for it though, and they go, "How did you not know?" It's like, you'll be surprised. It happens a lot. I even see it a lot, like people post on TikTok that, "Oh my gosh, like my husband had another wife. My boyfriend of 5 years had a wife in another country or another state." It's something that happens, but it's not always talked about. My emotional standpoint at this, because when I had Scarlett and I was pregnant with Nevaeh, I was into mindset and I was in this container, like group container, and we were working on ourselves. And I got in touch with journaling. I was very big on journaling at this time, writing all my feelings and emotions, my day, things like that, just literally anything down. And it was like I was talking to somebody, is how I would write. And it would help a lot of my emotions and help things get from out of my head and onto paper, because I didn't have to worry so much. That was one of my things that I was doing. And I was already part of like a mindset group. So I continued with them because, yeah, it was like my life then like became very chaotic. It became very different. I was having to go to all different places like police and things like that. So there was a lot going on. And I was quite scared. So imagine someone you were with for 2 years that you just like, "Oh, I really don't know who they are. And I've had 2 kids with them. And like, what the heck?" So having to work out like rights and like everything going on, and just having to put plans in place, it was really scary. And then to cart 2 kids around while doing all that as well was really hard. It was really hard to get a restraining order, and it couldn't follow through anyway because he had to actually be there. And I didn't want that because I don't know who that person is. That ends up falling through, and the court was like, "Okay, well, we're not doing that then." And I'm like, "Okay, well, if he has got to be there, I can't do that." When things like that start to happen, I was really like, is there no fucking protection? How everything's going, it's very questionable, but you think that the law is there to protect you, right? When you are in really tough situations and very, I wouldn't say life or death situations, but when you're in real intense situations, you really wonder if it's there to protect you. I felt really upset and just tired emotionally. Obviously, I had 2 babies, so sleep wasn't really too great at that point. When you don't have great sleep anyway, like it really puts a lot of your emotions on test, right? The girls would nap. So it was a time when the girls would nap, which was great. And when they would nap, I would do my group because I was still in that group container. So I would do my group container. I'm like, okay, they're down napping. I'll watch today's call because it was recorded, and I'll sit down and watch that. And that's what I would do. And that would help me with whatever the coach was talking about that day. And I would do the activity that she laid out for us to do. And that really helped because it stopped me from spiraling, which how easy that could be, because online became a thing for me. And this was like back in 21 when I decided to be on Instagram publicly. And I was with a company though. So I was sort of like repping a company at that point. And it also, in that community, we had group coaching. So it was really cool. And so experiencing that, it really helped me get through my days. It helped me stop spiraling too much. So because it was very unnormal, the situation, people coming knocking, having to go to different places to do different things, like so much going on. And you pretty much go into cortisol and fight and flight mode. You're running on stress and no sleep. And you're having 2 kids breathing and at you because they're in full toddlerhood, right? And at this point, Evie would have only been 10 months, 9 months, I think. So she was still breastfeeding because I stopped breastfeeding her at 11 months, I think. Yeah, around just after 11 months. And because I just couldn't do it anymore, I just felt so run down all the time. But I was very proud that I got that far with her. And so there was just so much going on. There was so much uncertainty. I didn't know how my life was going to be. I didn't see friends for a while as well in this period because there was just so much going on. There was friends that I had at that time that only were my friend and actually wanted to catch up because of that drama. And that was really hard because I was like, what kind of a friendship do we have then if you're just wanting to know the goss? So I had to make a few big calls. And so I expressed myself and said, like, hey, this is what it seems. And then didn't hear from the friend anymore. And I was like, okay, well, see you later. And so yeah, we just like delete each other off Facebook. And so that was really hard, like losing friends in this time where you're going through such a rocky time that you just think that all your friends are there for you. I felt really alone and isolated. I felt like, what kind of a life am I going to give my kids now? They're now going to experience a life that I didn't want for them, a broken family. And so, and not that there's anything wrong with broken families, but by the way, guys, it's just I was very the type of person that I wanted to get married and white picket fence and have kids with the same person and everything like that. And it just didn't work out that way. And it was very confronting. There was a lot of guilt because I thought like I was so naive. I was going through a real hard time in that space when I met him. So, it makes sort of sense. And that's why I also have a trauma bonding episode. So those don't know, trauma bonding is when you're going through a real rough time. And I believe people can find their like soulmates or partners in their hard time. But sometimes when we're in such a hard time, anything that seems to be like the grass is greener we'll latch onto. And if without any awareness, if we do that, sometimes we'll overlook certain things that were already there right in front of us. That's pretty much what happened. So my mindset in this whole time of becoming a single parent and him leaving, I felt really defeated. I felt like, what have I done? And I felt really shameful. So any new people, I'm not that close with my family. I choose that because they're just not very nice. They're not people I want my kids to be associated with. There is some family members I talk to, but I don't with some. So the family that I don't talk to were, and even the ones that I do, they were getting influenced. And so I had a lot of backlash, like them being like, oh, told you so. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. This is where I have a lot of heart for people when they have been in a toxic relationship. Unless if you've been in a toxic relationship, I don't think you have a right to have an opinion on people's lives and relationships because you would understand the push and pull. You would understand walking on eggshells. You would understand the manipulation that you go through in your head. And I think when you are manipulated mentally, it's really hard for people to come back from. It's really hard for people to swallow that anyone is capable of doing things like that to people. But there is a 1% of people who do actually manipulate people mentally. And that's actually really hard to get out of without any help. I know what it's like firsthand to have that. So anyone who hasn't endured something like that, you will not understand. And that's okay because, for my partner now, we've been through a very similar situation. So I have a lot of compassion for the way things turned out and the way and how it was because I was right there in a situation like that, very different. So when people like come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm experiencing this. I don't know what it's like," or my friend's going through this, I literally have compassion because I know what it's like. When they know how to do it, they can get you to a point where you think so low of yourself that you literally are stripped from your self-worth. All you think about is literally how shit you are, and you just literally shut up and listen to the person who's doing that. You don't really have a backbone because you're just at your lowest to the point that anyone could kick you. It's really hard to get yourself out of mental and emotional manipulation because they get you to a point that you think so low of yourself that you don't even think you can exist without them, basically. And you know that what's going on isn't correct as well. And that's where you have a lot of shame and guilt because you know this isn't right. But for some reason, you just can't work out why you can't get out. And it's so easy for people when they're on the outside. You just get out, you just leave. It's so much harder when you've been there because they know what they're doing and they can be really reactive. They're very different. So everyone's very different when they do things like this. Narcissistic people are people who are unwell. They're so wounded and they're so flawed in themselves. So they actually think so less of themselves because they're trying to meet a certain standard. But then also like their cover up is like, I'm the fucking best. So they flip. My mindset hasn't always been this clear. It hasn't always been positive. All through that time, I had no self-worth at all. Like I said, I did have my coaching container, so that really helped. So I didn't go on down on a spiral where you could probably go if you didn't have some sort of outlet. It's all about control. When people need to have a sense of control, it's because they never felt safe when they were a child and they never felt like they had control. Okay. Or sometimes it could be swung that they had too much control. How it can play out, it really depends. This is why it's hard to speak generically. It's only easy to speak when it's to your personalized situation. And so it was a lot of like frustration, the fact that people can get away with things like this. And, it was a lot of like anger, like, how did I even let this happen? And there was so much shame I had where I was like, how dare I do this to my children? They don't need a shell of a mom. I was going to people's homes to get food because I couldn't afford to shop at Coles or Woolworths or Aldi. Like I couldn't afford it. I was trying to make rent. I was trying to make the bills and everything like that. It was like a real struggle. And so I then eventually was able to sort it out. What I was doing day to day, I was literally surviving with the girls. And then I got to a point where this was probably 23. I said to myself, I just want to be happy. Like that's all I want is just to be happy. I want to experience happiness again. I don't want to be sad all the time. I don't want to feel, what am I doing with my life? I then started working with a coach to help release some of the trauma that I had in my body from everything, not only from that situation, but from like when my dad passed, from my other partnership, and throughout my life. I really wanted to just heal through and really understand healing. And so I worked with a coach, and that's what I started doing. I managed to work out a payment plan with her, and that's what we did. 2023 was a very happy year for me. I managed to heal my self-love within myself. I really could look in the mirror and be like, you know what, I'm happy with me. Because in that time with everything going on, I lost a lot of weight. So I wasn't eating because I couldn't afford to. I lost weight because of obviously not eating and a lot of stress. So when I experience a lot of stress, I won't eat. It suppresses my appetite. I got really skinny. I don't know how skinny from weight wise. I never weighed myself, but to a point that I don't really want to go back again. I look back, it's not crazy, but I don't think I'll be that way again because when I look back, I just know how sad and upset I was. I wasn't happy at all. I tried to be for the girls. I started eating again properly, working out, and that's when we worked on my podcast as well. The podcast it wasn't born as such, but she was like, we'll work up to that. And I was like, cool. But I really worked, I could look in the mirror and be happy with myself and be like, yeah, I'm really happy. Like I'm gaining weight. I do feel happy with myself and I'm spending a lot more time with the girls. We would go to the beach daily. I was really making the most out of life. And then opportunities started to happen. So I was on someone's podcast for the first time, my first ever interview. So that was really cool. So speaking about my situation, then I decided to move back with my mum because I couldn't be on the lease anymore by myself. And I was like, okay, my mom's going to be away on this holiday. So it worked out. So I moved. And so I really started getting feeling myself spending more time with the girls. Was a lot more present. I healed a lot of stuff somatically. So what that means is that you go through a process and you actually re-feel, and I know it's really scary, but you re-feel what you didn't allow yourself to. Because there were times where I was crying, but then I chose not to cry anymore because I didn't want to affect my girls too much. I didn't want to always be crying around them. I think it's really important for our kids to see us cry, see us express emotions in a safe way. So I focused more on being present and actually truly embracing my life because I didn't want life to pass me by. Because I think as well, losing my dad and not having him around also helped in the sense that I know life is short and it's like a really fucked situation that's happened, but I'm very blessed. I have two beautiful girls that are very healthy And I really want to make the most of my time. Even today, I always want to make the most of my time with them because they're not going to be little for long. And I even feel that now. So I then started doing gratitudes every day. So I would write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And that helped as well because the more you can lean into what you're grateful for. So the reason why you do gratitudes like that is because the more you look for positives, you will find. The more you look for negatives, you will find. So you will find the more of what you're looking for. And so I really wanted to be happy and to be present in my life. So I wanted to see all the joy that I was missing from, being clouded by emotion so much, and weren't sure if I was going to make it because it was like, how did I even get to this point? My mum very much lives her life. So I'm still like a single parent. I'm on my own with the girls. So if you're in like a really hard time with shit and you're just thinking, I don't know how my life is going to go, I don't know what's going to happen, that is very normal because I was right there a few years ago thinking, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. Also, understand that it's allowed to be hard. Life is allowed, like some situations and challenges that you have in your life, it's allowed to be hard because that is where our resilience is tested. That's where our strength is tested. That's where we learn so much in that time of when challenges are arising. You learn so much about yourself because you learn how you handle them, what comes up for you when in those times. And so what I really wanted to help you guys with steps to help you that are very tangible when you're going through a really hard time and to help maintain your mindset is definitely gratitude. At least if you write 5 things. If you can't get 5, do 3. Has to be at least 3. Like that's bare minimum, but 5 or 3. Okay, 3 or 5. I want you to write down all the things that you're grateful for in a day, not in the morning, at night. So right before you go into bed to go, were you grateful for in your day? And then the second thing I want you to do is actually do some mirror work. That really helps. It sounds really out there. It sounds really like, what the heck? But it really is a thing. When you're in the bathroom or when you're in your room, you look at yourself in the mirror with clothes off. So you can have your bra and underwear on if you want to, but I want you to be able to look at yourself in the mirror with no clothes on and actually look into the mirror. So you look with your eyes and you literally just tell yourself, I am so beautiful. I am so worthy. And I am really safe. And whatever else comes to mind, if something else you want to say, because it sounds easy, like, what the heck? Why would you do that? It's very confronting for people to look at themselves in the mirror. Very confronting, and to accept how they look. It's presencing in the moment. And then when you're saying affirmations like that to like looking directly at yourself in the mirror, that is also very confronting. But I would like you guys to try and to be consistent with that. And I want you to do that literally every single day, either in the morning as you're getting ready or after your day when you're going to have a shower or going into bed. I want you to be able to do that because it seems like, how is this even going to help? It's very confronting. And if you're even asking yourself, I don't think that's going to help, that's so silly, you absolutely need to do it because that's a story that you're saying to yourself. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. That's a story because you are fearful. So those 2 things are very impactful. We don't think that they are, but they really are. And you do them daily, whether in the morning or nighttime, whatever works in your schedule. Literally just I want you to do. And even if you can't do 2, you just do 1 of them. And you got to do it for at least a week minimum and keep going. Okay, you got to keep going after that though. It's part of your life, but you just, yeah. A bonus thing is to journal if you really want to, and you can journal as if like you're talking to someone about your day and how hard it was. Be real honest. Who pissed you off in a day? What emotions you were painting with? All the things, because that would also really help too. That was a very big game changer. I don't journal as much now. I don't feel like I need to. I don't do it as often as I once did. So instead of it being everyday thing, I do it like every few month thing. Right? Because I don't feel like I need to. I have other practices that I lean into. And this is where it's like self-development is the lifestyle change. It's not about, okay, I got to do journaling and then gratitudes and then this and adding. How does anyone do that? It's not about adding to your life. Like I don't do journaling in my daily life at all. Like for me, honestly, I'll do a meditation, I'll do a tapping, like tap, anyone who's seen tapping, and I also presence myself in the moment. So instead of I get myself out of my mind, what am I touching right now? What is around me right now? It gets you out of your head. So that's like also a little key thing for those overthinkers like me. So I do those things instead because that's what my lifestyle is like now. That's what's suited. All right. It's about learning all these things and having these tools in your belt, but you don't use them or like all of them in a day or all of them in a month. Like you don't, it's just about like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I feel okay. Like I want to do this more. That's what I mean. Okay, that it's a lifestyle change. Anyone new listening, I didn't really go fully into it. It's because I have already had episodes that I've gone into the whole situation. I just really wanted to go from like more of a mental standpoint that I haven't always been this way and life isn't always easy for me. It's always how you handle life. I just thought it was a really good episode to do. And I appreciate you guys for sharing and subscribing and liking and all those things with the podcast to help grow. I really appreciate you guys.